All right, I'm Dan Haggerty. Let's take a moment and go in depth, where I would like to discuss for just a moment the elephant in the room. Now, you probably think I'm talking about Babar, the jolly pachyderm who goes on adventures in children's books with pleasant excerpts like this one. His mother loves him very much. She rocks him to sleep with her trunk while singing softly to him. But no, unfortunately, no. Tonight, we're talking about a different elephant, the North Carolina Republicans, who also helped write something, a 625-page state budget with excerpts like this. Notwithstanding any other provision of this section or order, rules or regulations promulgated or adopted thereunder, you get the point. It's not as pleasant as the story about the little Babar becoming the king of the elephants, but there are some similar threads, like acquiring power. Let's go in depth. So here's the deal. When the Republican-controlled NC legislature passed the new budget, our NC Capitol team put it this way. Look at the headline there. Taxes, guns, schools, birth, and death. State budget touches on all aspects of North Carolina life. There's a lot to talk about in there, but tonight I want to focus on one page, 531, section 27.9, subsection A, records archiving. You see, the public has access to certain government records. You, me, everybody else. The media uses that access all of the time to break stories of corruption or misuse of power or some political scandal. There's a perfect example of this happening right now when WRAL investigations uncovered details about these two children and their deaths in the care of Nash County DSS. Public record laws gave us access to details that have led to a state takeover of that agency, and just this week, the demotion of their department head. To say that record laws are an important part of transparency would really be an understatement, which brings me back to section 27.9, which makes lawmakers in Raleigh entirely exempt from them, which sounds kind of like a big deal, doesn't it? That was added last minute to a giant bill with no debate or public input. And it gives lawmakers total control to decide which documents are public and which can be destroyed right there on the spot, no questions asked. Now, it's worth mentioning, this isn't a change for everyone. I mean, the rest of the state still has public record laws. The city councils, the school boards, the universities, the government agencies, so on and so forth. Everybody, except lawmakers in the State House.
What they seem to be saying here is we think it's important that they be available on a widespread basis for most levels of government, but we don't want you to have a look at our records.
That guy there is Hugh Stevens. He's a First Amendment lawyer, and he cleared up some misconceptions that I had for me. You see, I figured with a change like this would certainly be challenged in court, but he pointed me to our state's constitution, which, unlike some other states, doesn't actually protect public record laws, leaving this entirely in the hands of lawmakers and out of the courts.
This is a branch of government whose records now appear to be effectively closed to any kind of public scrutiny.
Now, we should mention this. Lawmakers already had plenty of ways to do business in private. I mean, we don't bug their offices. We don't tap their phone calls and listen in. They also have caucuses, which are basically a formal meeting disguised as an informal meeting. Like a recent example, a good one, when Rocky Mount and Nash County leaders had all these closed-door meetings, and they agreed that these possible casino plans would be secret for months, even signing NDAs. We didn't know anything about it. It was closed door. So already our lawmakers operate with a great deal of trust from us. But this records law was our last peek behind the curtain. It's effectively been transformed into a wall.
A lot of people may not be paying attention, but after all, whether it's corrupt or not, or whether it's just bad policy or not, bad things happen in the dark.
And here we go, headed into the pitch black. Now, we asked about this new law, and House Speaker Tim Moore basically said the reason was sometimes they get these enormous requests that can be a ton of work, and it bogs down government, and it costs taxpayers money.
Providing anything that is of interest whatsoever to the public. And so whenever you have those kind of situations where entities or individuals are weaponizing or using the public records request to simply add to the expense and just as a burden. That's an abuse of the process.
So we should trust them to determine what we should see and what we shouldn't. And you may trust our leaders, which is fine. But keep in mind, we don't make rules and laws for the best of us. We have rules and laws to protect us from the worst of us. Let me know what you think. Email me at dan@WRAL.com on this topic or any other. If you want to share Babar stories with me, I'm there for that as well. Tell me what's on your mind, and we will go in depth.
This is so interesting, Dan, because this is happening across and has been happening across so many states, so many different types of governments, lawmakers trying to thwart access to their records. But I do have a comment for what we just heard from Mr. Moore. I have paid for those records requests, so it can be passed down to the consumer who is looking for those. There are just so many questions on this one.
It's a cumbersome job, but so is ours, so we'll keep asking those questions.
Yeah, all right.